Hello there, welcome to another class with Dance Floor Activist or Matthew Black. Today we're doing a yoga class, so I'd like you to start lying flat on your back. Now this is a hip flexor class. I guess I should say the hip flexors are here. They're the thing that flexes the hip, so it brings your knee closer to your chest, like when you're walking, or similarly when you're sitting, your knees are closer to your chest, so they're contracted then. And I guess we're doing a lot of sitting down at the moment, especially if you're being self-isolating. And this is an opportunity in this class to stretch those hip flexors out. So we can start laying flat on the back and allow the breath to drop down into the bottom of the ribs. So right down here into the bottom of your ribs. Now I'm going to sit up so I can talk to you better, but you keep lying down flat on your back. Grab a look at the camera if you need to, but I'm just going to be talking as you lie there. I really want you to focus on breathing very deeply into the bottom of your rib cage, letting the stomach rise and fall to the rhythm of your breath. So when you can slow down your breath, it helps you to also regulate your heartbeat and slow your heart to a gentler rhythm. It also helps you reduce your blood pressure, so it's a really good activity to do just on its own. I think it helps to move whilst you breathe. It helps sort of focus the mind on something, and can really help you relax your muscles and focus your mind away from any thoughts or thought habits and potentially any anxieties you have. So we're going to start pulling the knees into the chest, into wind release pose. So I'm doing that too now, pulling the knees into the chest. Excuse the ambulances in the background. I'm self-isolating near some sort of ambulance station or something. Haven't quite worked out what it is yet. And then extend the right leg out, keeping the left knee into the chest. Now give that knee a little move around. See how your hip is feeling this morning or this evening or tonight. I keep telling myself not to say the times whilst I do these classes. I guess we're all living and learning at the moment. Now draw the right knee back into the chest and then swap over. Let the left leg lie down flat and let's do little circles with that knee. Pulling that knee into the chest, making it come round in little circles. Lovely. And then pulling both knees back into the chest. Now I'd like you to tuck the chin and pull yourself into a little ball. Hold the backs of the legs, push the feet away, and then come and balance on your bottom if you can. Now you can do the same exercise here with the feet on the floor, or here with the feet off the floor. Now you notice I've managed to get my shins in line with the horizon, or in line with the skirting board. But to make this a hip flexor exercise, I'd like you to extend the arms. So we're really warming up the stomach, but we're also warming up this area here in the body. And you can, if you want to, extend one leg and then the other. So you're pedaling one leg and then the other, but that's just an option. You might stay here, here, or here if it's more comfortable. Now from here I'd like you to rest the feet on the floor, stretch the legs out as wide as you can, and then slowly crawl forward. Now you're going to crawl forward as far as you can, and some of you might be able to rest your heads down on the floor here. As you can see, I'm a little bit away from that myself. And in yoga, there's no point in sort of thinking, oh well, I can't get my head near the floor, I'm no good at this, because the point of yoga is to feel a stretch, to feel an engagement in your body. It's not to sort of achieve a pose. So stretching forward and talking about where we should feel this, I want you to try and relax the legs so that your hip flexors are not too engaged. And then feel the stretch, a very gentle stretch across your back. Lovely. Coming back up, we're going to bring the feet together so both knees are bent, but then take the right leg round like this. Now we're sitting up as tall as we can with the right leg round. Now you notice I've got my foot flexed here. Now that's to protect the knee. However, if your knee feels good, you can point the toe. You do get a slightly better stretch in the sort of groin area if you do that, but it's not worth doing it at the cost of your knee. So sitting up as tall as you can, hold on to the shin if you need help keeping up, and feel free to pop a pillow underneath your bottom if it's a real struggle. Taking the right arm up in the air and reaching over. Now draw that elbow up to the ceiling. Breathing in, coming up, breathing out, relaxing down. Now we're going to take the legs back into this boat pose position. Release the arms if you can, and then take the knees down the other side, the feet to the other side, stretching the left arm up into the sky and reaching over. Again, taking the elbow up to the ceiling. Deep inhale as you go. Exhale. Let's reach forward, come onto all fours. Now you're going to tuck the toes under, push the bottom in the air, relax the neck, and then roll up gently, one vertebra at a time, with the head last to go. Now I want you to stand right at the top of the mat. And then take the left leg back. Now you notice that this is a bit of a balance pose because my back heel is in the air. My front knee here, or the right knee, doesn't come too far forward, so it's behind my toes, and I'm tucking my tailbone under. So I'm getting a stretch in the front of the left thigh. Now, I'm going to place my hands on the floor and then pop the knee down. Now from here, I'd like you to take the right arm in the air. So it's the same leg that's forward as the arm that's coming up in the air. Really opening that side of the body. If it feels uncomfortable to have your knee on the floor, feel free to tuck your mat under, double the mat over like this. Or indeed pop your jumper under your knee or any pillow that's close by. And then I'd like you to stretch your hips back. Try and elongate your spine and feel the stretch in the back of the leg here, the hamstring. Then coming forward, and if you want to, release the arms to the ceiling. Inhale, coming up. Exhale, reaching back. Inhale, coming up. Exhale, reaching back. Let's do one more of those. Inhale, coming up. Exhale, reaching back. Lovely. Now, coming to rest on your knee, we're going to take the hands round, interlace them, and hold the back of the head, taking the elbows out, then reaching the left elbow to the ceiling. Being careful not to fall over. Taking that left elbow right to the ceiling, coming back to centre, tucking the tailbone under, releasing the arms, opening the chest a little further. Exhale, pressing the hands back to the floor. Now, we're going to do the exact same thing again, but there's an option for some of you, if you fancy it, which is to tuck the toe under and lift the knee up. But you can keep the knee down if that feels better for you. Coming up, whoop. As you can see, it's much harder to balance. There we go. Interlacing the fingers, lifting that left elbow to the ceiling. Taking the arms up to the ceiling, opening the chest. Now we're going to place the hands on the floor and step back to tabletop. Tucking the tailbone under, rounding out the shoulders, then opening the chest to the front of the room, taking the shoulders away from the ears. Breathing out as you come into this shape. Inhale as we come to that shape. Coming to cat pose. And coming to cow pose. Now taking the left leg forward. Let's open the left arm. And rest it on the floor. Taking the hips back, feeling the stretch in the front of the back of the left leg, and then reaching forward, feeling the stretch in the front of the right hip. So reaching your tail back, trying to elongate your spine, feeling the stretch in your left hamstring. And then taking the hips forward, feeling the stretch in your psoas and your quadricep. Now let's add the arms if you fancy. Inhale, opening up. Exhale, reaching back. Inhale, opening up. Exhale, reaching back. Inhale, opening up. Exhale, reaching back. Now this time we're going to inhale, open up. And then interlace the fingers, lift the right elbow to the ceiling. And resting. Now we're going to do the same thing again, but if you fancy, tucking the back toe under into high lunge. So interlacing the fingers, taking the right elbow to the ceiling. Pushing the head into the hands and the hands into the head. And releasing, taking yourself to crescent lunge. Lovely. Now, we're going to draw the arms in a big circle and take ourselves to stand at the top of the mat. Well done if you managed that. I'm going to stand in mountain pose for a while. So I'd like you to take your hands out. Draw your shoulder blades together a little bit. Make sure your tailbone is tucked under and your legs are engaged. Imagine yourself on top of a mountain, gazing out at the world below you. Take a couple of deep, refreshing breaths. Maybe there's a mountain that you can actually imagine you're standing on top of. To be honest, a hill would be good enough. I guess it depends how ambitious you are. So let's interlace the fingers and open up the chest. Now we're going to do the same stretch, interlacing the fingers, but bend forward. If your hands, like mine, can come right over and then start to hang in the weight of gravity, do that option. However, if you find yourself sort of pushing your arms up in the air, then rest your hands on your lower back. Just focus on relaxing the neck. In fact, everyone, focus on relaxing the neck. Feeling the stretch across the shoulders if your arms can extend. You can push the bottom in the air, give yourself a little wiggle. Feel a bit of a stretch in the back of the legs. I'm getting a stretch all the way down into the back of my knees today. And then relaxing the arms and letting them flop down. Holding at the elbow so you're crossing your arms into ragdoll pose. And then coming to rest the hands on the floor to kneeling. Now we're going to lay flat on the floor here. And I'd like you to pull your right knee into the chest. Into the right knee, the right heel into the bottom. There's a baby crying in the other room. I'm finding it hard to concentrate. The right heel towards the right bottom, you know, shows the true yogic ability if you can ignore a crying baby whilst you're doing yoga. Lovely. And then release. Let's do that again on the other side. We're looking to do this really gently at the moment. You can rest your head down if that feels nice. Oh, and then release. Now we're going to do that again, but we're going to have a go at doing that from Sphinx pose. So I'd like you to place your hands on the floor. Your elbows ideally are underneath the shoulders. And take the shoulders away from the ears. Now for some people that's just going to be really uncomfortable in their lower back. So to make it more possible, engage your leg muscles,
your bottom muscles and thrust your pubic bone down into the floor and draw your hands towards yourself. So you can see how I can sort of fold up the mat like this. I draw my hands towards myself. Now hopefully that helps eliminate any uncomfortableness in your lower back because it engages your pelvic floor muscles. However, you can reach your hands forward a little bit, which makes the pose a little bit more gentle on that lower back. Feeling the muscles in the upper back really working. Now, if you can, let's do the same stretch, but keeping one of the hands in this position and pulling the heel towards the bottom. If that just feels uncomfortable, it's making your shoulders feel tense, instead just lie back down, use your hand as a pillow and draw your heel into your bottom. Oh. And again, if your knees don't like doing this, then just don't do it too aggressively. Oh, right down the leg, lovely. And to finish up, if you can, let's do both legs. So resting the head down and pulling both heels into the bottom. You can always hold your shins and flex your feet if that helps. And then relax. We're going to push back to tabletop and give our tail a little wag. Thread the right arm under the left and lay the shoulder down onto the floor. Now you notice my weight is in the shoulder, it's not in the head. And just stretch out the middle back. Coming back to centre, and let's do that on the other side. And coming back to centre. I'm going to tuck the toes under, pop the hips in the air into downward dog. Now, feel free to jump straight into downward dog if you're confident you know what you're doing. But if you haven't done downward dog for a while, or you've never done it before, get your index finger, this pointy finger, and point it to the top of the mat. Spread all the other fingers out like fans on the floor. Tuck the toes under and just pop the tail in the air a little bit so you're extending your spine just like we were doing in Sphinx pose just now. And then move the hips in the air and stretch the chest out. Now the legs can be as bent as you need them to be, but we're looking to extend the spine, open the chest and pop the tailbone in the air. Then relax the neck and drop the shoulders away from the ears. Taking the tailbone in the air and walking your heels down towards the floor. Now, for me, the important thing is to get a straight, long spine, not straight legs. The legs may or may not come in time. The important thing, as I said at the beginning of the class, is that you feel the stretch. You feel the strength in your arms and feel the stretch in the back of the legs, in the calf, maybe all the way down into the foot. And then coming to take the right knee to the right wrist. I'm going to tease this foot round so that your right hip is externally rotated. And then walk this back foot further back. Now that might be enough of a stretch in your right bum cheek for you to be content. However, if you want something more challenging, take the elbows down or even extend the arms out and rest the head down on the floor. But don't collapse the right bum cheek down. Try and keep the hips facing the floor and feel the stretch across the right leg. Now feel free to stop the video there or pause the video there and stay in pigeon, this is called pigeon pose, a little bit longer. However, I'm going to move it along, tucking the toe under and moving back to downward dog. And then taking that left knee towards the left wrist, externally rotating the left hip so that the heel comes towards your pubic bone or your right hip, Walk the right foot back a little bit and then come and rest on the elbows or rest the forehead on the floor. We're looking to get this thigh to rest on the floor. However, we don't want to do that by tilting the hips. We want to do that by drawing that right foot backwards and getting more rotation in that hip. Now if it's really uncomfortable, this position, you can always pop a pillow underneath this hip to make it a more gentle stretch. Lovely. Coming back to all fours. We're going to sit up for a moment, just stretch out the wrists. Do one after the other. I've heard this called begging dog. I don't know if it's a real yoga pose or it's just something that the yoga teacher I used to go to says. Lovely. Now from here, we're going to lie on our back, push the hips up into the air, press the hands down into the floor, and squeeze the knees towards each other. They don't need to touch, but just to engage the muscles in between the legs. And then gently roll down one vertebra at a time. Oh, lovely. Now, you can either stay here with the knees in the air, or you can extend your legs out. Taking some really deep breaths. And again, feel free to pause the video here. Or just let it run and finish, as long as you're not on autoplay. And have a little moment to reflect on how your body feels now compared to how it felt at the beginning. And give yourself a moment to do the simple acts of breathing, extending your breath beyond its natural habit. And I'm going to wish you well. Thank you for joining my online class today. Hopefully I'll see you in Zoom, online live classes. If you can't make them, I'm so pleased that you can do these classes from YouTube that I'm posting on Ko-Fi. Let's take a few more breaths all together and then I'll finish the class.